Hi, so good afternoon. Obviously, my name is Richard Bartlett. We're going to be doing a new series of export sales strategy. And the reason I wanted to do this was I've noticed over a period of time, particularly when I'm doing audits or anything else, or when I'm doing live face-to-face courses, which we haven't done a lot of since COVID, which is a bit frustrating. I've done a lot online, which is great, and lots and lots. But one of the things I really get value out is when you're doing them live, and when you're doing international, like recently in Saudi, you're doing live businesses, so you get a real feel for what people are doing. And one of the key things I'm finding all the time when I'm going seeing businesses from compliance, exporting, importing, docks, customs, everything around there is actually the sales. The sales are pushing it and driving it forward. Now, my background is obviously sales, so I'm very positive for sales. I'm going to believe without sales you don't grow. But it's the sales understanding them pitfalls and them key things to understand. And I created a series which they're not going to be too long. They're only a few minutes, but we're going to create a full workshop on this as we go along. But one of the things I want to do is give you some ideas. So it's 10 episodes. We'll do the first one today and cover. And this is great for your salespeople. Just jump on, have a look, see what they think, and see how this is working. Very important because it really drives that business, and it's very important. So it's 10 episodes. They're only about 5 minutes long. We're going to do a full course on this if people really want to get into the nitty gritty. And trust me, it will save you a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of kind of getting messed up with things or getting really in a tangle with what's required. So how many times do you get somebody orders something? What do I do with that order? What's the sales guys? What have they done? How have they quoted it? Have they quoted it? And then you find out you start to move the job and you've got all things in there that you haven't even thought about. Why would a salesperson think that if he's not fully affair with the supply chain? So this is kind of geared for them, but it's also geared for you that you can push them sales guy, which I know is a challenge. I know myself, it's a challenge because obviously being in that business, obviously it's very difficult because you're very driven, and I understand that. But one of the key things is what we see with a lot of business, and I see it all the time, and it really frustrates me to be honest. I see all these funding with all different organisations, and you see all these strategic talks, and you get somebody coming over from a country, India, I don't know, CPTPP, all these, and they're great people. But the policy people, and how are you going to ever generate? So you go to all these events and you invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of investment. You're then trying to create something from that. And let's be honest, let's see, let's not kid yourself. Let's look at the data, how many companies actually are very successful from that. I'll be absolutely amazed if it's over 20%. So what I wanted to do today is to actually show you the pitfalls to think about before you even go on these. And when you go to these events, you can really home in on what you require as a company. But it's understanding that before you start. The common pitfalls is the foundation. What you actually trying to achieve. Your product sells. You want to increase that. So that's what sales is all about. Exports is no different. But what exports does, it gives you that global market presence. So it gives you a huge presence that you can sell around the world. But not everybody will buy your product. So don't waste a load of energy trying to be number one around the world. Yes, some companies do it very successful. But I can tell you, if you speak to these companies, they've had the pitfalls at the early starts, and we're going to try and avoid that. And the key things we see, and these are the key things we'll talk about: strategic foundation, the market validation. What do we mean by that? It's knowing the markets that you want to enter and the support you can get from that. There's no point getting support in the UK and spending 6 months with a company in the UK who's promising you the earth, who's never actually been into that country themselves, and they've just got somebody on the other side. Well, how does that work? You've got to understand the market. If you ask me about Saudi, I can tell you about Saudi because I've been there. Did I know that before I went to Saudi? Absolutely not, because you learn as you're in there. Qatar, I worked in Qatar. Did I know about Qatar? No, I knew about it. I knew the opportunities, but I didn't understand the market, the culture, and everything around there. Obviously, Lithuania, Europe, US, Canada, I've worked all over the world. Everywhere's different. The one key thing is that if you're a British company and you're looking at expanding, there's one key thing about British companies: people like to deal with you. So always remember that. Forget all the nonsense that you hear on obviously government and everything else. The key fundamentals of this is that people want to buy British products or want to deal with British companies, whether it's service, manufacturing, all different elements. So again, always think about that. Common pitfalls. The warning signs. Why waste your energy? The warning signs there, don't bother, move on to the next thing. Framework, risk mitigation. I'm going to talk a lot about that because if you get this right, you can really start to generate very good opportunities around the global market. Trust me, there's a world of opportunities. Why does it fail? Well, I'll put this down just to make it the critical period before you start is before even the container or anything leaves, is actually getting that long-term assessment and getting everything in place. I'm going to talk a lot about market research. What is market research? Why is it fundamentally important in your strategy? Now, somebody who's coming from a sales background, strategy and market research is the last thing on my head. I've fallen up and I want to get business, so don't worry. I fully understand how businesses operate and how they work. But this is really important to understand why that is so important. Contract terms, what are you putting in your contract? How many times do I go and do audits or compliance checks and diagnostics? And I said to them, what's your contract? What do you mean, what's contract? Well, what's in there? And there's so much risk involved in there. Most people will be able to sell and ship and get away with it. But the fundamental problems you have is lots of areas around that. It's if you get stuck at border, what do you do? If you got the wrong income terms, is that going to be costly to me? If you get a HMRC audit in the UK, which we're seeing lots and lots of them, what procedures do I have in place? If I'm applying for bonded warehouse or AAO or an IP, do I have systems in place that will allow me to obtain that from HMRC? These key things. Again, partner due diligence and pricing, and then execution and monitoring. It takes a period of time. Get this right, and you can be really successful. And this is why I wanted to develop this little course. They're quick, but obviously we'll spend a bit more time on it if you want to join any of our workshops in the future. Again, the three personal assumptions. No strategy entering markets without documented research. How do you know? And think about, and I'll give you a prime example. And this is real life experience. I've worked in Saudi, I've delivered courses, very, very fantastic feedback from everybody who attended them courses. We have a product that can really develop in Saudi. There's no question about that. We could be really one of the key players as an export unlocked, as our training module could be very successful in Saudi. You contact, you make contact. People all want to do things. What did I not assume or misunderstand? I didn't realize that you have to have somebody in Saudi who will support you. So you have to have somebody who will support your business within Saudi. Secondly, I didn't realize that Saudi, working in Saudi, and this is common in a lot of places, be very keen to help you, and then nothing. And then literally you're chasing them. British people were very on the ball. We want to chase and chase. Maybe we're too aggressive sometimes. I'm chasing and chasing. I could go through a period of 3 to 6 months, long, of not hearing anything from them and getting very frustrated. What have I done anything wrong? And it's understanding that culture, that there's never an urgency, and there's never an urgency in a lot of things until somebody really wants it. So always remember that. I remember working on the CPTP about doing some training there. You lose the will to live. You correspond, you send everything, and then you get it, and then by the end you get an email saying, yeah, we're not really thinking of doing that. And you think, well, I've just wasted 10 months of my energy, which you do. You waste a lot of energy. So please learn from my experience. Don't waste your energy. Get this right, get your research, get your strategy, and you'll save yourself a lot of frustrations and why you don't enter them markets. Assume demand. You might think your product's in great demand, but how do you know until you test the water? It might not be that competitive in the market. But actually, in some markets, and I learned this the other day doing a live course where somebody told me that for some reason their biggest strength is Malta. And I was like, Malta? Out of all the markets, they said Malta has been the most successful for us. So, and I said to them, was Malta on your radar? No, it just kind of fell upon us. And now Malta's our most successful. And we've struggled in every other market, but Malta's been consistently successful for us. Yeah, so don't always assume that other markets, but sometimes the markets that you never think of can. Obviously, we're in AI and we're building up the global market finder, which I think will be a game changer for a lot of people, but it's not ready yet. We'll be ready soon. Weak partner checks for appointing distributors. I do courses on distributors. I do courses on agents. What is the benefit of a distributor and an agent? Yes, some great benefits. Downfalls, you stuck with that. So again, we can talk about that. Again, doing your due diligence and understanding when you sign that contract, if it's 3 years, understand the market. If it's in Germany, Why would you have somebody in Berlin looking after somebody in Neuss or Mönchengladbach who is on the opposite side? How much time is going to spend in Frankfurt? These key things, are they successful? So again, partnership depends on the country, the size. Somebody in the US, you have somebody in New York. Why is he suddenly going to be successful on the other side in Seattle? Or why is he going to be suddenly successful in Miami? These are the key things. So again, it's understanding that. I've been there, done it, seen it. I can write the book on it. I should write a book, actually. I never thought of that. So cost of strategic failure, wasted travel. Yeah, you can spend a lot of money doing all these events, all these shows and everything. Remember, when you go to these shows, they have one thing in common. They want to sell their products. Unless you're actually exhibiting your product, you've got a chance. If you're just going there to test the market, I would recommend you do it in other ways, personally. Again, margin erosion to become margin loss through poor pricing. And what poor pricing? So I put my teeth back in. Very important to understand that. And I'm going to take you through them key elements. And again, lost months, average time waste on wrong market or partner. I could write, honestly, a book on that. I think we waste so much time on this. Governments throw money at these things and they're just a waste of time to me. You've got to have people on the ground. Again, working, I think a couple of banks have got this and they're understanding what's needed there and they're trying to strategically do things differently, which would be interesting. And again, I'll share that as we go along on the next few months. Successful export operations follow discipline, research, structure, validate, protect. They're your key things. Trade data, you get it's all there. The information's there. You just need to speak to the right people. It's very important. Just on knowledge, it's one thing I've been doing. So before appointing distributor, the common, what must be confirmed first before appointing distributor? Is it margin, market demand, fair value, insurance? Be interesting. And again, in the chat, if you don't mind just putting, there's no test on this. So even if you get it wrong or you think it's that, doesn't matter because I'm going to explain to you the reasons for that and why. We're going to do the next series, the 10 short series. And if you want any more information, drop us a thing, hopefully subscribe and hopefully like what you're seeing and hopefully we'll see you very soon. I'll give you the answer. I'm not going to give you the answer today because it's a bit of fun. That's all I've done it for. A bit of fun. So again, it's just making sure you understand. I'm here to help you. That's the whole point of the YouTube channel. It was to find something that could help businesses really progress. So thanks very much and thanks for joining.